Conformity and Deviance by Group 5. Common sense makes us to see that some things are right and some things are wrong. Most of the time, we also tend to think that most of us know the difference between them. But one interesting thing is how and why the standard between good and bad is constructed by the society. In this presentation, we're going to find out more about that. Deviance is any behavior or action that is against the norms and values in society and recognized as a violation of cultural norms. The concept of deviance is quite broad because almost all human activities are guided by norms. The example of deviance in our daily life is rule breaking, such as stealing, attacking a fellow student, or driving a car while drunk. Besides those negative actions, positive action can be seen as deviance too. For example, many of us also define students who speak up too much in class as a deviant, even if we still respect them. According to Becker, 1966, what deviant action or attitudes, whether negative or positive, have in common is some element of difference that causes us to think of another person as an outsider. You also have to remember that all deviance involve action or even choice. Sometimes the existence of some categories of people can be trouble to some others. For example, for young people, elderly people may seem hopelessly out of it, and to some whites, the presence of people of color may cause discomfort.
Hello, my name is Made Kalista Pratnadevi and I will discuss about the causes of deviance. The first one is biological context. Sheldon, Harold, and McDermott discovered a research stating that criminality was most likely among boys with muscular athletic builds. Moreover, in a self-fulfilling prophecy, people who expect muscular boys to be bullies may act in a way that brings out the aggressive behavior they expect. Today, researchers in the field of genetics are cautiously investigating possible links between biology and crime. The researchers conclude that genetic factors, together with environmental factors, were strong predators of adult crime and violence. The second one is personality factors. Like biological theories, psychological explanations of deviance focus on abnormality and in the individual's personality. Some personality traits are inherited, but most psychologists think that the personality is shaped primarily by social experience. Deviance, then, is viewed as the result of an unsuccessful socialization process.
Although we tend to view deviance as the free choice or personal feelings of individuals, all behavior is shaped by the society. There are three social foundations of deviance. The first one is deviance varies according to cultural norms. No action is definitely can be called as deviance. It becomes deviant if it is related to particular norms or values in the society. For example, since 2015, the medical use of marijuana is legal in 23 states in Washington DC and illegal in other states. Let's see another example. In Indonesia, it is inappropriate for an unmarried couple to live together, but in the United States, it is a normal thing to do in that society. It means most cities and towns have at least one unique law. The second one is people become deviant as others define them that way. As I said before in the previous slide, a student who is too active in class and can be seen as a deviant by other student who is less active in that class, even though they don't feel as deviant. The third one is how society set norms and how they define rule breaking involve social power. It means that powerful people can protect their interests. For example, a homeless person who stands on the street corner speaking out against the government risk can be seen as disturbing the peace. But on the other hand, a mayoral candidate during an election campaign can do exactly the same way and will get the protection by the police. In short, norms and how we apply them reflect social inequality.
So now we'll discuss about structural functional theories. The first one is Durkheim's basic insight. Emil Durkheim made a claim that there is nothing wrong about deviance. First one is deviance affirms cultural values and norms. He believed that there can be no good without evil and no justice without crime. Deviance is needed to define and support morality. Second one, responding to deviance clarifies moral boundaries. People can draw boundaries between what is right and what is wrong. For example, let's say cheating on a test. The third one is responding to deviance brings people together. Durkheim believes that through deviance, they reaffirm the moral ties that bind them. For example, after the incident where the police strangled a black man, people from all over the world demonstrate for justice. The last one is deviance encourages social change. Deviant people push a society's moral boundaries, suggesting alternatives to the status quo and encouraging change. So today's deviance, the character can become tomorrow's morality.
Robert Merton argued that society can encourage to emerge too much deviance. Specifically, the extent and type of deviance people engage in depend on whether a society provides the means, such as schooling and job opportunities, to achieve cultural goals such as financial success. Conformity exists in pursuing cultural goals through improvements. Therefore, in the US, a successful person is someone who gains wealth and persists through talent, schooling, and hard work. But not everyone who wants conventional success has the opportunity to get it. For example, people who come from a poor family have little hope of becoming successful if they play by the rules. The next one is innovation. Innovation using unconventional means or street crime, rather than hardworking or conventional means to achieve a culturally approved goal or wealth. The fact is, the lack of opportunities to get rich may encourage some people, especially the poor ones, to engage in stealing, drug dealing, or other forms of street crimes. The next one is ritualism. Ritualism is the inability to reach a cultural goal. For example, many people may not care much about becoming rich, but rigidly stick to the rules anyway in order to feel at least respectable. A third response to the inability to succeed is retreatism, which is rejecting both cultural goals and conventional means so that a person in effect drops out. Some alcoholics, drug addicts, and street people can be described as retreatists. The deviance of retreatists lies in their unconventional lifestyle and also in what seems to be their willingness to live this way. The fourth response to failure is rebellion. Like retreatists, rebels such as radical survivalists reject both the cultural definition of success and the conventional means of achieving it. But they go one step further by forming a counterculture supporting alternative to the existing social order. Richard Cloward and Lloyd O'Flynn extended Merton's theory, proposing that crime results not simply from limited legitimate opportunity but also from readily accessible illegitimate opportunity. But what happens when people are unable to find any opportunity, legal or illegal? Then deviance may take one of two forms. One is conflicts of culture, such as armed street gangs that engage in violence out of frustration and a desire for respect, and the other one is the development of retreatist subcultures in which deviants drop out and abuse alcohol or other drugs. In short, deviant or conformity emerges from the relative opportunity structure that frames a person's life. Walter Miller adds the noted subcultures are characterized by 6 things. The first one is trouble. It appears from frequent conflict with teachers and police. The next one is toughness. The value placed on physical size and strength, especially among males. The third one is smartness, or the ability to succeed on the street, to outsmart others, and to avoid being similarly taken advantage of. The fourth one is a need for excitement, or the search for thrills or danger. The next one is a belief in fate, a sense that people have control over their own life. And the last one is a desire for freedom, often expressed as anger toward authority figures.
Now I will discuss about symbolic interaction theories, defining deviance. First one is labeling theory. Deviant people push a society's moral boundaries, suggesting alternatives to the status quo and encouraging change. So the first one is primary deviance. It can be defined as the first stage of initiating deviant behavior, for example, skipping school, underage drinking, and so on. The second one is secondary deviance. It's when people take notice of someone's deviance and make something out of it. After an audience has defined some action as primary deviance, change into secondary deviance. For example, say that people begin describing a young man as an alcohol abuser, which establishes his primary deviance. These people may exclude him from their friendship network, and his response may become bitter toward them, and maybe start drinking even more. And he also starts seeking company for those who approve his drinking. These actions mark the beginning of secondary deviance, a deeper deviant identity. The next one is stigma. It's defined as a powerfully negative label that greatly changes a person's self-concept and social identity. So after secondary deviance, as people develop a stronger commitment to deviant behavior, they typically acquire a stigma. The last one is retrospective and projective labeling. Retrospective labeling is when once people stigmatize an individual, people will start interpreting someone's past in light of some present deviance. And projective labeling is using the person's deviant identity to predict future actions. For example, once he stole, he might steal again.
The sociologist Travis Hirschi developed control theory, which states that social control depends on people anticipating the consequences of their behavior. Everyone finds at least some defense tempting. The thought of a ruined career keeps most of people from breaking the rules. For some others, just imagining the reaction of their family and friends is enough. On the other hand, individuals who feel they have little to lose by defense are likely to become rule breakers. Specifically, Hershey links conformity to 4 different types of social control. The first one is attachment. Strong social attachment encourages conformity. Weak family, peer, and school relationships let people easier to engage in defense. The second one is opportunity. The greater a person's access is to legitimate opportunity, the greater are the advantages of conformity. On the other hand, someone with little confidence in future success is more likely to do the defense. The next one is involvement. Extensive involvement in legitimate activities such as holding a job, going to school, or playing sports inhibits defense. But by contrast, people who simply hang out waiting for something to happen have time and energy to engage in different activity, such as unemployment people. The fourth one is belief. Strong belief in conventional morality and respect for authoritative figures restrain tendencies toward defense, people who have a weak conscience and more open to temptation. Here's the analysis combines a number of earlier ideas about the causes of deviant behavior and the person's related social privilege as well as family and community environment is likely to affect the risk of deviant behavior.
Theories of class, race, and gender, deviance, and inequality. The first one is deviance and power. Social conflict theory explains this pattern in 3 ways. The first one is all norms, especially the law of any society, generally reflects the interest of the rich and powerful. People who threaten the wealthy are likely to be labeled deviant, either for taking people's property and so on. Karl Marx argued that the law and all other social institutions support the interest of the rich. The second one is even if the behavior is called into question, the powerful have the resources to resist deviant labels. The majority of executives involved in the recent corporate scandals have yet to be arrested, only a few have gone to jail. The third one is the widespread belief that norms and laws are natural and good match to their political character. For this reason, although we may condemn the unequal application of the law, we give little thought to whether the law themselves are really fair or not. The next one is Deviance and Capitalism. In the Marxist tradition, Steven Spitzer argues that deviant labels are applied to people who interfere with the operation of capitalism. So the first one is capitalism is based on private control of wealth. People who threaten the property of others, especially poor, who steal from the rich, are prime candidates of being labeled deviant. Second one is capitalism depends on productive label. People who cannot or will not work is risk being labeled deviant. The third one is capitalism depends on respect for authority figures, causing people who resist authority to be labeled deviant. For example, children who skip school or talk back to parents, and teachers and adults who do not cooperate with employers or police.
Now we continue to crime. What is crime? Crime is the violation of criminal laws enacted by the locality, a state, or the federal government. All crimes consists of 2 elements, the act itself, or in some cases, the failure to do what the law requires, and criminal intent, which is, in legal terminology, means rea, or guilty mind. And now we're going to analyze the types of crime, and in this slide we're going to discuss crimes by analyzing their victims. The first type of crime is crimes against property. Crimes against property are crimes that involve theft of property belonging to others. Property crimes include burglary, the unlawful entry of a structure to commit a serious crime or theft, larceny theft, the unlawful taking, carrying, leading, or riding away of property from the possession of another, auto theft, the theft or attempted theft of a motor vehicle, and arson is any willful or malicious burning or attempt to burn the personal property of another. The second type is crimes against the person, also called violent crimes. These crimes are the crimes that direct violence or the threat of violence against others. Violent crimes include murder and manslaughter, aggravated assault, an unlawful attack by one person upon another for the purpose of inflicting severe or bodily injury, rape, and robbery. And the last type in this slide is victimless crime. Violations of law in which there are no obvious victims, also called crimes without complaint. They include illegal drug use, prostitution, and gambling.
The graph shows the rate of various violent crimes and property crimes during recent decades. Since about 1990, the trend in crime rates has been downward.
Now we're going to discuss the types of crime by analyzing their perpetrators. The first type is white-collar crime, defined by Edwin Sutherland as crime committed by people of high social position in the course of their occupations or jobs. White-collar crimes typically do not involve violence and rarely attract police officers to go into the premises or the scene with their guns drawn. Rather, white-collar criminals use their high social status to enrich themselves and others, often leading to significant public harm in the process. Some examples of white-collar crime is securities fraud, embezzlement, corporate fraud, and money laundering. The second type we're going to discuss is organized crime, which is a business supplying illegal goods or services. Organized crime is a category of transnational, national, or local groupings of highly centralized enterprises run by criminals to engage in illegal activity, most commonly for profit. Some examples of organized crime are drug trafficking, migrant smuggling, human trafficking, money laundering as well, firearms trafficking, illegal gambling, extortion, counterfeit goods, wildlife, and cultural property smuggling, and cybercrime. And the last type we're going to discuss is corporate crime. Corporate crime is the illegal actions of a corporation or people acting on its behalf. Corporate crime ranges from knowingly selling faulty or dangerous products to deliberately polluting the environment. An example of this is the collapse of a number of US corporations in recent years that costed tens of thousands of people to lose their jobs and their pensions. Even more seriously, 127 people died in underground coal mines between 2009 and 2014. Next, we go over the case analysis, and for the case we've chosen, we chose the 2019 Papuan student dorm incident in Surabaya. First of all, we're going to discuss the brief chronology of the incident. It all started when an Indonesian flag was found bent down and into the ditch or got, and outside of a Papuan student dorm in Surabaya, and the picture went around via WhatsApp. When people saw the picture, they were aggravated, and they started to form a crowd around the student dorm. This crowd consists of soldiers in uniform, Satpol PP, people from reactionary mass organizations or ormas, and bystanders who happened to be passing by or who saw the picture and got aggravated as well. When they got there, which was in the afternoon, the flagpole was already in its initial position, but they didn't care, and they still shouted racial slurs and called them by the name of animals like pigs and monkeys, and told them to go back to where they came from. But yeah, they also threw rocks, which made the students unable to go outside to even get food. So the next day at 10 a.m., the police attempted to communicate with the students, but they didn't respond. The police even reached out to a Papuan representative in Surabaya, but they still didn't answer. After that, one student by the name of Ikardani Nawipa tried to negotiate with the police, and they asked an explanation on why the students aren't allowed to go outside to even get food, and also why if the police even had proof of the students wrecking the flagpole into the ground. But considering that the situation only escalated from this point, the police probably didn't give them an answer. They issued 3 warnings, and at 3 p.m. they broke in, shot tear gas canisters, and arrested all 43 students. And by midnight, the students were released, as it was proven that the police did not have enough evidence to take them into custody, because that's the truth. Next, we're going to get into the questions which were asked regarding the case. First was what case of hate speech it was, and it was a case of racism and dehumanization, because the crowd who were present called the students inside racial slurs and called them by animals' names. And for the second question, what parties were involved? The parties involved were the students living in the dorm, the police, the military, but specifically the soldiers in uniform who were present at the incident, and the people from the reactionary mass organization, or ORMAS. And how was the case resolved? For the students, as I have said before, were returned at midnight after their arrest, because the police simply lacked evidence to take them into custody. For the soldier in uniform, the superiors of said soldiers in uniform punished them according to military laws, and the commander, who was confirmed to be present and participating in the racist actions, was temporarily suspended. And as for the ORMAS, Shamsul Arifin, a state civil apparatus, and Trisusanti, a leader of the reactionary mass organization of ORMAS, were detained for a disappointing 5 and 7 months, which are extremely short. And the fourth question was, what are your group's arguments, and whether or not this is a case of deviance? And our answer is that the racist comments hurled by the mass surrounding the dorm was a clear act of defiance and can be classified as a hate crime, as they were dehumanizing the students inside the dorm and calling them monkeys, dogs, and pigs. And for the last question that we have to answer is that, does this case have any layers or any other important points? And our answer is, although it does not correlate directly, this incident does make Indonesia's discrimination towards Papuan people to seem more evident. In 2019, which was the year of the incident incited demonstrations from all over Papua. Granted, they weren't just demanding justice for the perpetrators, but rather this incident is a trigger, or a stepping rock, if you will, to get the public eye and demand reparations, or at least a solution for the ongoing tension that is happening and has been happening in Papua.